Alright, hey YouTube. Today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 closest Senate elections for the midterms in 2022. Now, historically, presidents typically lose seats in the House of Representatives and Senate during their midterms, and there are 4 possibilities of what the outcome will be after this race. Number 1, Republicans win the Senate. Number 2, Republicans win the House of Representatives. Number 3, Republicans win both the House of Representatives and Senate. And number 4, Democrats keep control of both houses. Now we'll be looking at which Senate races are closest, and some have a decent possibility of flipping parties. Before I get started, I want to count down 3 honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is Utah, where Mike Lee is seeking re-election for a second time, but is being challenged by Evan McMullen. McMullen actually tried running for president in 2016 in Utah in order to try and deadlock the Electoral College and not get Trump elected. He failed, but still ended up getting around 21% of the vote in Utah, still coming behind Trump and Clinton in the state. The Democratic Party actually isn't running a candidate and ended up endorsing McMullen. Lee actually opposed Trump in the 2016 election and endorsed McMullen. However, they are both trying to run for the same Senate seat in 2022. Lee has a lead of 9.8 points, but is much closer than his re-election in 2016 due to McMullen's existing popularity. The second honorable mention is Colorado, where Michael Bennet is also seeking re-election for a second time. He's being challenged by Joe O'Dea, who is a moderate conservative and isn't endorsed by Trump. O'Dea is the CEO of CEI Constructors, Inc., which is where he got a lot of campaign money from. Bennett has a lead of 9.7 points, but his previous elections have also been very close. The final honorable mention is Iowa, where Chuck Grassley is seeking re-election for a 7th time. Grassley is facing Michael Franken, a retired U.S. Navy admiral, former aide to Senator Ted Kennedy, and a candidate for Iowa Senator in 2020. Grassley is facing his toughest re-election campaign yet due to criticism from supporters about his age, alignment with Trump, and high disapproval ratings. If Grassley is re-elected, he would become the second oldest person to be re-elected for another term after Strom Thurmond of South Carolina in 1996 at age 93. He will also be the most senior member of the United States Congress, the most senior member of the United States Senate, and longest-serving Republican senator in U.S. history, overtaking Orrin Hatch. Grassley is only leading by about 9.6 points. Now let's get on to the actual list. Number 10 on the list is Florida, where Marco Rubio is seeking re-election for a 3rd full term. He is being challenged by Val Demings, a representative from Florida's 10th district. Florida has become much more Republican in recent years. However, Obama won the state during both of his elections. Rubio had a significant lead before their debate, but after a not great performance, his numbers dropped a bit. Rubio has a 7.6 lead over Demings. Number 9 is Washington. Patty Murray is trying to get re-elected for a 6th term in office. She's being challenged by Tiffany Smiley, a nurse, Veterans Affairs advocate, and caregiver. Smiley's campaign has significantly outraised Murray's campaign, and polls have been closer in recent weeks. Murray is the 3rd highest Democrat in the Senate and has been in office since 1993. If Smiley were to win the seat, she would be Washington's first Republican senator in more than 2 decades. Murray is trying to push abortion rights as one of her main selling points after the overturn of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court earlier this year. Murray has a lead of 6.1 points over Smiley. Number 8 is Ohio. Rob Portman, the incumbent senator, is retiring, which is leaving the seat open. The Republican nominee is J.D. Vance, a lawyer and author from Middleton, Ohio. The Democratic nominee is Tim Ryan, a representative from Ohio's 13th congressional district. Ohio used to be a toss-up state, but has leaned more and more Republican in recent years. 2020 was the first election where Ohio didn't vote for the winner for the presidential election since 1960. Ryan has more political experience, but Vance has Trump's endorsement. It is projected to lean Republican, but Ryan has had a very strong campaign. Vance has a lead of 3.9 points over Ryan. Number 7 is North Carolina. Richard Burr, the incumbent senator, is retiring, which is leaving the Senate seat up for grabs. The Republican nominee is Ted Budd, a representative from North Carolina's 13th district. The Democratic nominee is Sherry Beasley, the former Chief Justice of North Carolina Supreme Court. Both qualified candidates. North Carolina used to be a safe Republican state, but has turned closer to a toss-up state in previous elections. Biden was projected to win the state in 2020, but Trump won it by a margin of 1.34%, or just under 75,000 votes. This was Trump's most narrow victory in any state. It was still projected to be a toss-up until a few months ago, but Budd has kept a decent lead over Beasley. Budd has a 3.8 lead over Beasley. Number 6 is Wisconsin. Ron Johnson is seeking re-election for a full 3rd term in office. He's being faced by current Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes. If elected, Barnes would become the first black senator from Wisconsin. Biden won Wisconsin in 2020, and Johnson is receiving criticism by seeking a 3rd term when he had promised to only serve 2 terms in office when he was first elected in 2010. Johnson is the only Republican incumbent to be running in a state which Biden carried in 2020. Johnson does have a lead, however polls in 2016 were wrong and underestimated his support when he won re-election. Johnson is the most endangered Senate Republican to lose his seat in this election. Johnson has a lead of 3.3 points over Barnes. Number 5 is New Hampshire. Maggie Hassan is trying to get re-elected for another full term. She is facing Republican nominee Don Bolduc, who is a retired Army Brigadier General. Bolduc ran for a Senate seat in 2020 but was unsuccessful in getting the nomination. Bolduc also until recently claimed the 2020 election was stolen, but reversed his stance when he won the Republican primary. Hassan barely won her Senate seat in 2016, only beating out Republican incumbent by 0.14% or just over 1,000 votes. Hassan was the governor of New Hampshire before deciding to run successfully for the Senate in 2016. The race is not as close as it was in 2016, but is still not a runaway election for Hassan. Hassan is leading Bolduc by 3.2 points. These top 4 are extremely close and will most likely determine the majority makeup of the Senate in 2023. Number 4 is Arizona. Mark Kelly is trying to get elected to a full term after being elected in a special election in 2020. He's being challenged by Blake Masters, who hasn't held public office before, but has closely aligned himself with Arizona 2022 governor candidate Kari Lake. Arizona's Senate seat, governor, and secretary of state are all very close in polls and can tilt either way. Kelly has a 1.9 lead over Masters. Number 3 is Nevada. Catherine Cortez Masto is trying to get re-elected while being challenged by previous Attorney General of Nevada, Adam Laxalt. Cortez Masto is facing the hardest re-election campaign of any incumbent senator. Republicans have a high chance of flipping the seat, which would most likely make them have control of the Senate next year. Laxalt's grandfather, Paul Laxalt, actually served as senator and governor of Nevada previously. Cortez Masto is relying on abortion to be her selling point, as she says that if Republicans can control the Senate, then they will most likely create nationwide bans on abortion, similar to one already introduced by Lindsey Graham. Laxalt has a 1.2 lead over Cortez Masto. Number 2 is Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey is not seeking re-election, so the seat can go to either party. John Fetterman, the current lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, is trying to get the Democratic nomination, while Dr. Mehmet Oz is trying to get the Republican nomination, despite not holding any public office before. Oprah actually just revealed that she endorses Fetterman despite essentially starting Oz's career on TV. This race keeps going back and forth between both candidates, as both have a very good possibility of winning the seat. Obama, Trump, and Biden all visited Pennsylvania within the past week to campaign for their respective parties' nominee. Both nominees have attacked each other on not being able to execute responsibilities of senator. Oz has attacked Fetterman about his stroke in May and is not healthy enough. Fetterman has attacked Oz about not living in Pennsylvania since before 2020 and can't represent the state properly. This is a crucial race because if Republicans keep the seat, then they will most likely regain control of the Senate. Fetterman has a 0.4 lead over Oz. Number 1 is of course Georgia. Just like in the 2020 Senate election, it comes down to Georgia. Raphael Warnock, elected in 2020, is trying to get re-elected to a full term. However, the Republican nominee, former running back in the NFL, Herschel Walker, is putting up a very good fight for the spot. Walker has come under fire for 2 women accusing him of paying for their abortion, which he has claimed he is strongly against, and claims from his ex-wife that he was abusive. Due to Georgia law, if neither candidate gets 50% of the vote, then there will be a runoff election on December 6, 2022, which there is a very high chance of happening due to there being a libertarian candidate. Both candidates have gone back and forth, and it is going to be an extremely close election, and whichever party wins the Senate seat will most likely control the Senate in 2023. Currently, the Democrats have control over the Senate by a razor-thin margin, since it is a 50-50 split, with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking the tie for a Democratic majority. Walker has a 0.1 lead over Warnock. However, both are below the 50% required majority in Georgia law and will have a runoff and neither receive a majority. So those are all the close elections for Senator in 2022. Which states do you think will flip or be close? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you all for watching.